Hello everyone, welcome to GS Core. My name is Abhishiekh Saxena, and in today's Prelims Probable session, we are going to look at certain policies and programs for the subject of governance. So, whenever we look at governance and social justice, of course, you have multiple policies and programs that you study as part of your preparation. Mind you, when we look at the examination, easily between 5 to 7 questions are based on the policies and programs. So, in today's session, we are not here just to look at certain schemes and policies and programs which are, as they say, are probable, right? But also the probable mistakes, the traps that UPSC lay for you that need to be avoided and that need to be managed. So, as part of today's session, we are first going to look at certain traps, right? And I will be referring to certain PYQs. So, if you don't have PYQs handy at the moment, just grab them along as we move on with this session. Along with those traps that are there, we are going to look at certain probable policies and programs which can be really high yielding for the upcoming preliminary examination. Also, I would glad to be hearing from you as we discuss, and would be looking forward to the live chat that happens along with the session. So that you can ask your queries. At the same time, if it happens that you happen to watch this session at a later point in time, do comment in your queries and doubts and I'll try and respond to them ASAP. So let's move forward. So like I said, that there are 5 to 7 questions that are based on the policies and programs. And often what we look at is the compilations that are available to prepare for the policies and programs. While that is a good enabler, nothing can actually supplement a continuous reading of newspapers and keeping a tab on certain policies and programs. Having said that, the way we consume these policies and programs through compilations is something that cannot be a blanket way wherein we take up a compilation and read it from cover to cover. We need to be cognizant of the fact that what UPSC actually asks and wherein is it that the UPSC is going to lay certain traps for us and effectively manage those traps. If you look at any policy or a program, you will find that there would be certain features, objective, stakeholders, funding, delivery mechanisms. These are going to be the broad details. For example, the nodal ministry, the departments which are involved, right? So that would constitute the stakeholders. The delivery mechanisms would entail whether it's a subsidy scheme, whether it's a monetary transfer scheme or something of an in-kind scheme. Along with that, most importantly, the target group. Okay, so let us first have a look at the various traps, and I'll prove that with certain examples to you. That why and wherein are the traps that are laid. If you see, they will mix a correct fact with an incorrect detail. Those can be the wrong ministry, incorrect year, or partial objectives. Just to give you an example, the Smart City mission ended in March 2025, and that makes it one of the most important schemes or policies to cover for this year's prelims, right? So this is an important fact for the reason that we are looking at 2025 prelims, for example. Okay. Similarly, the funding pattern, whether it's a central sector or centrally sponsored. A center sector scheme would entail that the scheme is fully funded by the government of India, whereas a central sector scheme would mean that there is a participation of the state governments as well. In what ratio? Then confusing the nodal agency with implementation partner. Remember, the two can be different. The two can be different, and that is where the UPSC is going to lay certain traps. That is where UPSC is going to lay certain traps for you. At the same time, adding an outdated or obsolete provision just to confuse you on the lines that a particular provision might have been a part of the version 1 of a particular scheme, but might not be the part of the version 2. And that is where again the UPSC is going to trick you with certain provisions. Moving further, if you see, interchanging the target group, women versus self-help groups versus SC, ST, OBC. So what is the criteria, right? Hi Harsimran, good evening. So again, they can tinker with the target group and present you with a set of statements which might on the face seem correct. So while you are consuming the compilations, these things are of utmost importance. These things are of utmost importance, right? Along with this, if you will see, using extreme keywords like only, all, mandatory, entirely, such keywords again can trouble the candidates in deciphering what is correct and what is incorrect. Okay, moving further, I have laid down a list of certain traps, and along with that I have sort of tried to describe them and provide a PYQ example. The objectives trap. Okay, twist the core objective by adding a similar scheme. For example, Udan scheme. So Udan scheme, PYQ example, that it is the passenger first. It is the passenger first. But they might say that it is the cargo capacity. A similar related idea. But if you look, it was always about the passengers and not the cargo. I am referring to a PYQ of that has been asked in the civil services examination. Similarly, the funding pattern, okay, central sector and centrally sponsored. For example, PM Kusum was labeled in one PYQ as entirely central sector, which is not the case. Similarly, ministry mismatch. Okay, schemes that are under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs might be confused with the Ministry of Rural Development. Along with this, if you will see, time and launch trap. Schemes which have been ended. For example, Digital India was not launched in 2022. It was started in 2015. Similarly, the target group, wherein Pradhanmantri Awas Yojna urban is targeted at SC/ST only. In reality, it is income criteria based. It is not for SC/ST only. So such fine details are necessary to be imbibed when you consume those very schemes and programs. Next is the delivery mechanism. Okay, so UPSC is going to ask what is the modus operandi for delivery. For example, the direct benefit transfer, JAM, e-rupee, SHG route. Okay, for example, Ayushman Bharat implementation via a state or a national agency. Similarly, the terminology, use of certain words like agri-stack with Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojna, or confusing natural farming with certain other components. Okay, so I have listed down more traps here for you. Objective, features, funding, ministry, target group. One can be eligibility criteria. Who is eligible? Whether it is for women, whether it is for the disabled, right? Whether it is for disabled women. Okay, so things like that can add to the confusion. Delivery mechanism, timeline is something that we have discussed. Implementation agency, again, something that we have discussed. But if you look at the similar name trap, while going about the preliminary examination, most of us are anxious. Most of us are sort of, a bit in a hurry. And often in such scenarios, what can happen is that one can miss out on certain tiny details, right? The names, okay? Swamitva, Swanidhi, for example. Okay, PM Ajay, PM Suraj, right? So the nomenclature should be very, very clear. The nomenclature should be very, very clear to us. How we plan to go about a particular scheme. There are more. The component mix-up trap. Mixing components of different schemes together. For example, Pradhanmantri Jan Arogya Yojna, Ayushman Bharat, and the health and wellness centers. Similarly, adding some sort of a misleading data, okay, amount of subsidy, number of beneficiaries, a percentage of coverage, though highly factual in character, but for the ones who have been in news, you should have a rudimentary idea. Going further, whether there is a policy or a scheme, national education policy with a scheme like PM Shri, then mixing the old content with the recent dynamic update, and that is where you check the current affairs related awareness. Okay, then the international and national mix-up. For example, sustainable development goals, multidimensional poverty index. So you know that one multidimensional poverty index which is released for India is by the Niti Aayog, and the other one is released globally by OPHI and the UNDP. So that mix-up can again be there, okay? And the confusion between voluntary and mandatory provisions, provisions. So, with these traps in mind, let us try and cover certain high yielding policies and programs for our discussion. So what am I going to do is that it is not going to be something where I am going to dictate everything about the policies and the programs or tell you what it is. Rather, we'll be taking the leaf out of the same traps and figuring out what possible traps can be laid by the UPSC. Okay. Interestingly, like I told you, with regards to the Smart Cities mission, the implementation period ended in March 2025. March 2025. It is a flagship mission of Ministry of Urban Development and Housing, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Okay. Now, if you look at the convergence part of this scheme, it converges with other schemes like Amrut, Pradhanmantri Awas Yojna Urban or Shahriye. Pradhanmantri Awas Yojna Urban or Shahriye. Okay. Last time, if you see, in 2017, this scheme was asked, right? This scheme was asked. Now, the objectives, if you look for this particular scheme, they are twofold. That is on core infrastructure plus the clean and sustainable environment. Clean and sustainable environment, and it seeks to improve citizen participation and service delivery and efficiency in public infrastructure. Now, if you look at the coverage, 100 cities were selected for this through a competitive method. And SPV, the implementation mechanism is SPV, that is a special purpose vehicle at the city level. It included both greenfield and brownfield. So it is not just the greenfield or not just the brownfield. It included both, right? As an incentivization mechanism, Smart City Awards were instituted as well, right? And if you look at the center-state coordination in terms of funding, it is a 50-50 pattern. It is a 50-50 pattern. Now, please understand, for a majority of the central sector schemes, right, you will have a funding wherein you will have the 100%. The centrally sponsored scheme, generally the funding is 60-40 and 90-10 for certain hilly states and northeastern states, etc. So do remember, the funding pattern varies here, and that can be a catch. Also, further mobilization was encouraged through PPP mode. PPP mode. We'll try that, Simran. Okay. The PPP is also encouraged as part of this. Okay. So if you look at, interestingly, the funding from the union stopped around 2020, but implementation continued till 2025. 2025. So the funding phase was between 2015 to 2020. Okay, but the implementation phase has extended till March 2025. March 2025. Okay, some of the model examples include Indore for waste management, Surat for air quality, right, and all those things. Now, what can be the possible traps in this? If you look at the traps, okay, whether it is a central sector or a centrally sponsored scheme, it is a centrally sponsored scheme. Okay, the nodal ministry, that is Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, SPVs that are formed, the funding is 50-50. While the funding stopped in 2020, the implementation continued till 2025. So that is again a trap. Again, confusion with other schemes. For example, Amrut, if you look, right, Amrut, if you see, is for a basic infra, whereas Pradhanmantri Awas Yojna is for housing, So the 2017 prelims actually said that it was a central sector scheme, but it was rather a centrally sponsored scheme, right? And that is where a lot of you, it was a simple standard question, only one, only two, both or neither kind of a question, which actually made the trap. So just a tiny detail, the funding pattern of the scheme. Moving forward, let us take up another scheme in question, that is Digital Agriculture Mission. It was recently approved. Okay, and it is in light of the digital public infrastructure. You all are aware that the G20 happened in India, and India's digital public infrastructure was showcased. But agriculture has been a sort of a lagging player when it comes to the digital public infrastructure. And that is where this particular scheme comes into the picture. Okay, it is linked with the idea of other digital initiatives in the agriculture sector, that is AgriStack. AgriStack. Okay, so the idea or the objective of this particular scheme is to build a farmer focused digital ecosystem and to enable a data driven decision making Okay, again it supports the PPP as an idea along with real-time planning and monitoring. Now, like I said, it is linked to the AgriStack. So AgriStack is a digital infrastructure, like you have the Aadhaar card, to build a database which will have geo-referenced digital village maps, okay, information about farmers, details about the crops that are sown, okay. Along with AgriStack, it has another very important feature, that is KDSS, that is Krishi Decision Support System, that will integrate the geospatial information available through satellites about weather, soil, crops, groundwater, etc. to enable better decision making. Okay, there will be a digital general crop estimation survey that will be carried out, soil resource mapping, right, and hence it will support the digital and data driven decision making. Okay, it's a completely central sector scheme with only some components that come as centrally sponsored. Okay, the nodal ministry is Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture, right, in collaboration with, of course, ISRO for the use of Bhuvan portal and the Land Use Survey of India, Soil and Land Use Survey of India, right. The period is interesting because 2025 to 26 it is there. Okay, and the GIS based dashboards and APIs will be created, right. So if you look at the Agri Stack, that is again a part of the digital agriculture mission. It is not a separate scheme. Okay, Krishi Decision Support System is not just a software, it is a predictive model. It is a predictive model, and it is not getting implemented via the state agricultural universities. Okay, via the state agriculture university. However, farm registry is linked to the state land records, state land records. Okay, so I just want to know the sense of the crowd. Are you getting the mode in which I am trying to orient you? Friends like Harsimran, Motivational Baba and others. Come on, you can reply through the live chat. You can reply through the live chat. All right. Moving further to the next one, that is Agrisure. That is Agrisure. It is for a sustainable, uniform, sustainable, uniform, resilient, export oriented agriculture, and that is where the sure is coming, and agri for agriculture, and agri for agriculture, right. So this particular initiative, the Agrisure, is an initiative by agricultural and processed food products Export Development Authority, which is abbreviated as APEDA. APEDA. This authority is under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. See, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Now, interestingly, a lot by the name, if you think, it will be like it is from Ministry of Agriculture. Okay, so here lies a trap for you. Here lies a trap. It was launched just a little over a year ago, around February 2024. And the idea is to create climate resilient agriculture and sustainable exports. Okay. Also, the clientele. What is the clientele of this particular scheme? It is the small and marginal farmers. So the idea is to link these small and marginal farmers to the global export supply chain and to promote natural and organic farming and enhance farmers' income. Now, if you look at the implementation mechanism, it follows a cluster-based implementation. It follows a cluster-based implementation and promotes certifications. Promote certification, good agricultural practices, right? And the use of digital integration to monitor quality, to enhance the traceability, and to bring about climate smart agriculture, and develop market linkages. So your FPOs, small and marginal farmers, agri startups, right? Those are there. It's a central sector scheme. Okay, and the delivery happens through a hub and spoke model. Okay, where you have nodal district clusters and FPOs as the last mile unit. Okay. So understand, this is not a subsidy scheme. So that is where the trap is. It is to build capacities and provide certification and promote domestic sustainability, and it is not under the Ministry of Agriculture, Now, let us move to the next one, that is National Mission for Edible Oil, National Mission on Edible Oil, that is oil palm. It's labeled as National Mission for Edible Oil, and within this the oil palm. Okay. Many of you might not be aware that a few years ago there was skyrocketing of the edible oils and we had to import. So government decided that we need to be self-sufficient or Atmanirbhar in this particular field, and hence you have the National Mission on Edible Oil. And the objective, if you look, of this particular initiative is to enhance the oil production, particularly from oil palm, and reduce India's import dependency for edible oil. Naturally, when we are looking at the oil palm and to enhance the production, we are looking at both qualitative as well as quantitative measures. Qualitative as well as quantitative measures. Okay. So the cultivation area has to be expanded. The price assurances have to be provided, and the farmers need to be provided a handsome earning. It is a centrally sponsored scheme, and the ministry is Ministry of Agriculture. Ministry of Agriculture, right? It was launched in 2021, like I said, some years ago, right? And interestingly, the duration was 2025-26, and therefore the schemes become important for the prelims. Okay. And when it was launched in 2021, it absorbed within its fold the oil palm component of the National Food Security Mission. Good evening everyone. National Food Security Mission. Okay. So there is one part which relates to the financial assistance to the farmers for planting, intercropping, maintenance and management, right, water infrastructure, etc. Within this scheme, you have a focus on micro irrigation. Now, this is something that I am telling you, it has a focus on micro irrigation. Okay. Now, the statement in the examination can actually be that it has a water efficiency focus, right? So these interpretive statements is something that you will have to deal with in the exam. When I say that it promotes micro irrigation, that means it is promoting water efficiency use, especially in the water stressed areas. It has identified Northeast and Andaman Nicobar Islands for strategic expansion. Okay. Since it's a centrally sponsored scheme, the funding pattern remains standard: 60-40 for general states, 90-10 for the hilly states and the northeastern states, the Himalayan and the northeastern states, and 100% for the union territories. Okay. If you look at India's import of oil palm, we were largely doing it from the Western Africa, right? Western Africa. Okay. So the traps vis-a-vis this scheme actually lay in the funding, right? While the scheme is named like this, but it covers all edible oils. It covers all edible oils. Just like the clean Ganga, it is not just about Ganga river, it is about all the major rivers. So while the name is like this, it covers all oils. Okay, so that can be a misleading idea. Okay, understood. Like the National Mission for Clean Ganga is not only for Ganga but for all. Here it is focused only on palm oil. It is not for all edible oil. Okay. Also, when it comes to funding support, okay, direct support is not given, rather viability price is given. So there is no MSP. There is no MSP. While a misleading idea would be that it covers just the production, but it also covers infrastructure and price stability. Infrastructure and price stability. Okay. Now, moving further towards another scheme highly popular, again related to the farm sector, but through insurance, that is Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojna. Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojna. Okay. Recently it was in news, right, because elections happened, etc. And the prelims of 2017 have already featured this scheme. If you look at the Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojna, it is part of the larger strategy, okay, for climate risk mitigation for agriculture. Okay, it is one of the key ideas behind this particular scheme. So the financial support is provided to the farmers against the crop failures due to pests, natural calamities or diseases, to stabilize the farm income and to encourage the adoption of modern agricultural practices, right? Remember, not all crops are covered. Food crops, oil seeds and the horticultural crops are covered. Okay. The premium rates vary for Kharif and Rabi crops. Okay. Whereas a premium support is provided by the center and states in a joint manner. Okay. There is no upper limit on the subsidy. Okay. The government will bear the premium burden above the farmer's share. Again, if you look here in this, the funding pattern is 50-50. The funding pattern is 50-50. Okay. So there is no upper cap on the subsidy. It is the central government that bears all the burden. The ministry is Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. Okay. It is not something that you are a loany farmer, then only it is provided. It is available to both loany as well as non-loany. That means those who have taken loan as well as those who haven't taken loans, and is applicable to both, right? Is applicable to both. Okay. The premium rates are fixed and are not increased annually, right? Earlier it was sort of a mandatory, but since 2020, if you see, it is voluntary even for the loany farmers, because generally when you take loan, the insurance happens automatically, but still it is voluntary. Okay. Understood? It is not implemented directly by the government, but rather by the insurance companies. Insurance company. Okay. Next, PM Kisan. PM Kisan, that is Pradhanmantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. Pradhanmantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. That is an assured income support scheme. Assured income support scheme. Okay. And it is available to all eligible land holding farmers, so that they can take care of the expenses related to agriculture and related activities. Okay. Interestingly, you see, it started in February 2019, but was applicable retrospectively from December 2018, and a income support or a monetary support of 6,000 rupees per year in 3 installments. That is 2,000 into 3 is provided. DBT, that is the direct benefit transfer, is the operational mechanism which is used. So naturally every 4 months, when I say in a calendar year, 3 times. Okay. Initially it targeted the small and marginal farmers, but now it has been extended to all the land holding farmers irrespective of the land size. Okay. One family, that is husband, wife and minor children, are considered as one unit. Okay. Understood? Because in the farm sector you have an issue of fragmentation. Okay. One farmer, he has 2 sons and they have their own respective wives, and they have their own further offsprings. But are we giving it to him only? No. We are looking at husband, wife and minor children as one unit. Husband, wife and minor children as one unit. The ministry is Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, and it is centrally sponsored scheme. Okay. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. The states and the UT governments identify the beneficiaries based on the land records. They upload the data on the PM Kisan portal, and then a validation happens through Aadhaar and bank account. So Aadhaar seeding is mandatory. Okay. There is, of course, when Aadhaar and bank account is there, there is a KYC requirement. And if you see, it is linked with other satellite schemes in the farm ecosystem. Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojna, Kisan credit card, etc. Okay. It is a center sector scheme, 100%. Earlier I said it is centrally sponsored. Correct that, it is a central sector scheme. Okay. Covers all land holdings irrespective of size. Benefit is not given to each member, but rather each unit. I explained the unit. Okay. Rented farmers are not eligible, only the land owning ones are eligible. Okay. So that is something which is important. There are, of course, exceptions. If a member of a family is holding a constitutional post or has an income above 10 lakh, they are not eligible. Former MPs, MLAs, doctors, engineers, CAs, etc. are excluded. Right? So tenant farmers are not included. Okay. And this is, when we analyze it substantially, one of the points of the criticism as well. Okay. So now the point is fair that, when we talk about schemes like PM Kisan, it has certainly boosted the compliance rate of other, schemes, soil health card, Fasal Bima Yojna, etc. Because you have coming up with the Aadhaar linkage, etc. That can be verified. Okay. Have we understood this, friends? I'm asking you through the live chat, are you getting this before we move on to the next scheme? Okay, let's move. After PM Kisan, one interesting scheme came, that is Uttar Purva Transformative Industrialization Scheme. Uttar Purva, that means we are talking about northeast. Northeast. Unnati. Okay. Fairly recent one, launched in 2024 to boost industrial development. To boost industrial development in the northeastern region. How? By providing incentives. If you see this provision of incentives, just for the sake of remembering and understanding, you will find that this has been a theme which is running across. Okay, whether you look at PLI, whether you look at DLI, design linked incentive and production linked incentive schemes. So they are providing incentives for you to perform. Okay, so it provides incentive to the industries for setting up manufacturing or service sector units, so that employment is generated in the northeast. In situ employment is generated in the northeast region, right? And private investment comes into the region. Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And within that, if you see the DPIIT, that is the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. Okay, Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. Now, if you look at this Unnati initiative, there are two incentives, okay, or the incentives happen on twofold basis. The first one is the capital investment. Capital investment. If you are setting up a plant or a machinery or construction for service sector, okay, 30% of the investment is provided as a incentive with a ceiling of 5 crore rupees. So maximum that you can actually take is 5 crores. Another one is the interest subvention. Interest subvention. %3 interest subvention on loans for capital investment, which is applicable for 7 years. 7 years. Okay. All the northeastern states are included: Arunachal, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, Tripura. Okay. And is open to new industrial units, whether manufacturing or services. Okay. And a person has to register with the portal, right, and has to periodically comply with the GST reports and other things. Okay. So it can be just the industry. When you say industry, often you link with manufacturing. So that is where the catch can be, or the trap can be laid. Apart from that, also the name Unnati, right? You might link it with a women development or women related scheme. So that is again a catch. Okay. It replaces the earlier Northeast Industrial Development Scheme. It replaces the earlier Northeast Industrial Development Scheme. So it replaced the NEIDS. Okay. NEIDS. All right. Moving on with the next one, that is acing development of innovative technologies with IDEX scheme. So IDEX, if you look, that is innovations for defense excellence. So we are looking at the defense sector. IDEX. Any which ways India-Pakistan tensions are there, right? And the defense sector is in the spotlight. Though for all practical purposes the paper would have been set by now, but IDEX has remained consistently in the news over the past year, right? If you look at the IDEX, that is Innovation for Defense Excellence, it is to create an ecosystem to bring about innovation and technology development in the defense and aerospace sector. In the defense and the aerospace sectors. So you have the startups, MSMEs, innovators, R&D institutions to develop products. It is working under the larger umbrella of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense manufacturing. Interestingly, the Ministry of Defense is the nodal ministry. Ministry of Defense is the nodal ministry, and it is not targeting individual innovators only. It is targeting startups. Individual innovators are also a part. Okay. So in that ways, it is not separate that we are looking at individual innovators or we are looking at organizations. We are looking at both the startups, individual innovators, MSME, etc. And we are looking at non-traditional defense innovations. I do not want you to make another similar tank to Arjun. I want you to make something else, something different, innovative. And there is a challenge approach which is there. A competition is held and the winners are provided with the grants, right? Grants. Okay. And these grants are distributed in a milestone based format. So some portion will be given for one milestone, some portion for another, etc., etc. Okay. Multiple startups have been engaged and hundreds of contracts have been assigned. If you look at this scheme, because it is so looking at the startups, you can confuse it with Startup India or Atal Innovation Mission. If you look at the nodal agency, it is the Defense Innovation Organization. It is the Defense Innovation Organization. Okay. It is under Ministry of Defense. Okay. It's a grant based scheme. It's a grant based scheme. All right. Next, let us look at a very popular scheme, that is Samagra Shiksha. Samagra Shiksha. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. That means states have a role to play here. States have a role to play here. It's subsumed Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, and the teachers education, not RUSA like Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan. No, it is not part of the Samagra Shiksha. So that is one trap, right? So we are looking at it from preschool to class 12th. So in that ways it is aligned with the right to education. It is aligned with the right to education and the NEP 2020. NEP 2020. Ministry of Education, Department of School Education and Literacy is the nodal agency. Okay? Nodal agencies. If you look at digital initiatives under this, one is Diksha. One is Diksha. Right? One is Diksha. So, girl childs, if you look. Children with special needs, SC, ST, minority and out of school children, socio-economic disadvantaged group. And if you look at it, is not just about enrollment. It is about infrastructure, digital solution, okay? It is about children with special needs, gender inclusion, because we are looking at the women. So you have Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas, teachers training, and focus on the foundational literacy and numeracy skills, FLN, which is also seen under the Nipun Bharat. This Nipun, if you look, was under the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. So very clear demarcation of what is under what should be there. Funding pattern is again the standard one, 60-40, 90-10. Interestingly, UTs with legislature, UTs with legislature have a similar funding pattern as states, that is 60-40, okay, that is 60-40, all right. So early childhood care and the pre-primary aspect, which was under the Nipun Bharat, under Samagra Shiksha, right, it has also been included in its fold. It has also been included in its fold. Going further, PM Shri, or it is also sometimes written as PM Shri. Again, something related to education. PM Schools for Rising India. Okay. So the idea is to develop around 14,500 schools across India into model schools, into exemplary schools, so that they demonstrate all the components of NEP 2020, that is National Education Policy 2020, and they ought to be act as showcase institutions so that they can influence the neighborhood schools, neighboring schools. Okay. So all the provisions, whether it is related to provision of holistic learning environment, technology integration, modern pedagogical tools of assessment, environmental considerations through green schools, inclusivity, which are, which enable the children with special needs also to attend, and skill development. Okay. It is again a centrally sponsored scheme with 60-40, 90-10 and 100% format. Okay. The period of implementation 2022, 23 to 2026-27. 2026-27. Remember, we are not creating new schools, okay, but the upgradation of existing schools. So this is a catch. This is a trap. We are not creating any new schools, friends. Okay? Again, a competitive challenge method is being used, right? Okay? While 14,500 is a tentative number, it is not a fixed number. It can be more, it can be less, right? Also, like I said, existing schools. So your Kasturba Balika Vidyalayas, KVs, Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas, all of them are eligible. All of them are eligible. Okay? Next is the Digital India, a well-known initiative, right? It was launched in 2015 and aims to transform India into a digitally empowered society and knowledge economy. If you see the target group, it is all the citizens, especially rural, underprivileged, students, farmers, entrepreneurs, women, self-help groups, marginalized community. The nodal ministry is Ministry of Electronics and IT, that is the MIT. Okay? Whereas the implementation involves multiple central ministries and departments. So the twofold things. The nodal ministry is mighty, but the implementators are multiple ministries and departments, state governments, other technological partners, for example, CDAC, Center for Development of Advanced Computing, National Informatics Center, right? So on and so forth. Now, if you look at this Digital India, it has certain core pillars, that is broadband highways, BharatNet initiative, universal access to mobile connectivity, okay, common service centers, post offices, e-governance initiatives, okay, electronic delivery of services, for example, e-Kranti, okay, information for all, electronics manufacturing, IT for jobs, and early harvest program. So if you see the key initiatives, Umang, DigiLocker, MyGov, Arogya Setu, Bhim, Jeevan Praman, okay, UPI, etc. All of them are flourishing under this. So you will have multiple things, portals, mobile apps, physical units like Common Service Center, digital platforms like DigiLocker, etc. The funding is made through the ministerial funding of MIT. Okay. Also, PPP, state budgets, CSR, everything is getting used here. All right. So if you look at Umang and DigiLocker, they are under Digital India. They are not isolated. Okay. Next is NPS Vatsalya scheme. Okay, NPS Vatsalya scheme. It is for children to ensure their holistic development, protection and welfare. So therefore, it talks about the child protection services under a single umbrella scheme. Okay, so whether the juvenile justice, right, or our obligations under the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Child. So child protection services, both institutional as well as non-institutional, child care institutions, foster help, child helpline, (1908). Oh, sorry, 1098. Okay, they are integrated. So you are focusing on multiple aspects related to child protection and welfare: early childhood care and education, nutrition, safety from trafficking and abuse, rehabilitation. The nodal ministry is Ministry of Women and Child Development, Ministry of Women and Child Development, right? And it will include orphans, abandoned children, missing, trafficked, child laborers, okay, and of course children falling under the juvenile justice provisions. Okay, it is implemented through state governments with financial and technical support from the center. Okay, from the center. If you look at the integrated child development scheme, that is the umbrella scheme, you have few things, that is Mission Poshan, Mission Vatsalya and Mission Shakti and Mission Shakti. Therefore, POXO Act, okay, United Nations Conventions on Child Rights of Children and all those things, all of them will come here. So it is neither under Ministry of Health or Education, but Ministry of Women and Child Development. It is not a new scheme, okay, it is a revamped version. It is a revamped version. There is a query? Okay, do you want me to elaborate again on tenant farmers? Alright, I'll do that here itself. See, the scheme that we were talking about, the direct cash support, it was for land holding farmers. It is not for tenant farmers. You understand that there are some people who act or as tenants for a land and they cultivate and try to earn their living, right? So that subsidy scheme, 6,000, not subsidy, cash transfer scheme of 6,000 or so is not applicable to those tenant farmers, and that is one of the criticisms, that while land holding farmers still carry certain amount of heft, yes, marginal farmers with small land parcels are mostly deprived, but you know, the tenants, you haven't given anything to the tenant farmers. Understood that, Harsimran? Okay. Next is Pradhanmantri Matsya Sampada Yojna. So we are looking at the fisheries sector. Fisheries sector. The idea is to bring about a blue revolution, which is sustainable and responsible, to bring about the development in a sustainable and responsible manner, and to double the fishermen's income, improve productivity, infrastructure, post-harvest management, and export competitiveness. Interestingly, their duration was up to 2024-25, and this makes this scheme one of the important scheme from the point of view of current affairs for us. Okay, nodal ministry is Ministries of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, and the department is Department of Fisheries. It is a central sector scheme. It is a central sector scheme, right? So like I said, it looks at manufacturing, post-harvest management, etc. So it is not simply a cash subsidy or welfare scheme for fishermen. It is looking at the entire value chain of the fisheries sector, from fish seeds to feed mills, extension services, technology, livelihood support, right, innovation, etc. Okay. So this one vertical of it that I have just talked about, the innovation, livelihood support, insurance, etc., that is a central sector scheme. But as a component, there is a centrally sponsored component as well. Okay. Non-beneficiary oriented infrastructure, regulatory framework, right, and the beneficiary oriented activities, they continue on a centrally sponsored fashion of 60, 40, 90, 10 and 100%. So you have various stakeholders, SHGs, farmer producer organizations, vendors, private sector, cooperatives. Also, a key point to note here is that we are not only looking at the marine fishing, we are also looking at the inland fishing, aquaculture, cold chains, processing units, fish markets, sustainable fishing practices, insurance and livelihood support. Okay. So don't confuse it with Ministry of Agriculture. It is not only for marine fishing. Okay. While individual fishermen can take advantage, but it is looking at a more collective units of cooperatives, startups, fisheries, farmer producer organizations. It is a mix of central sector and centrally sponsored. Okay. It aligns with the blue economy vision of 2047. Also supports SDG 14, that is life below water. Okay. Now, if you look at another very popular flagship sort of a scheme, but nonetheless remains important, is the Ayushman Bharat. Flagship health initiative, right, under the overarching vision of the National Health Policy 2017. Okay. The idea is to achieve universal health coverage. universal health coverage, both preventive and curative healthcare. Okay? And it wants to strengthen the healthcare systems across primary, secondary, tertiary, improve access, equity and quality, and provide financial protection. So if you look at this broad envelope, there are two things: health and wellness center and the PMJ, that is Pradhanmantri Jan Arogya Yojna. So we are establishing health and wellness centers by upgrading the primary health care centers and sub centers. Okay? Free supply of essential drugs, medicines, diagnostics, etc. Whereas Pradhanmantri Jan Arogya Yojna is an health assurance initiative. A health cover of 5 lakh per family per year. Okay? We are looking at both urban and rural scenarios, and the data is not based on general census, the eligibility and the target group. It is socio-economic caste census, both at public as well as empaneled hospital. The nodal ministry is Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, whereas national agencies like National Health Authority implement PMJ. National Health Authority implement this, and state health agencies implement it at the state level. It is a sponsored scheme, centrally sponsored scheme. That means the standard ratio of 60-40, 90-10 and 100% applies. Okay? If you look at the recent news, this is Ayushman Bharat Digital, Ayushman Bharat Health Account. Okay, National Digital Health Mission, right? And these ABHA IDs were created. It is not only for below poverty line, it is based on the socio-economic caste census data. Okay, it does not cover the OPD care. Okay, it does not cover the OPD care, where the HWC, Health and Wellness Center, is universal, PMJ is targeted. So there are two fork divisions here. Okay. A PYQ in 2020 did refer to the Pradhanmantri Jan Arogya Yojna. Next is PME Drive, that is Prime Minister Electric Driving Innovation for Vehicle and Environment. For vehicle and environment, to boost indigenous capabilities. To boost indigenous capabilities in EV manufacturing. Why am I saying this? Because easily things can be confused with FAME and other schemes. Okay? So as to reduce the dependency on imported components, whether it is related to actuators, whether it is related to the batteries, right? And to strengthen the electric mobility ecosystem in India by creating a sustainable and efficient supply chain. Mind you, all of this data will be available on these schemes website, right? And Vikaspedia. Don't go for scrupulous sources. All right, so keep that in mind. Don't go for scrupulous sources. Okay, and to position India as a global hub for EV technology and localization of EV components. Now, there are three core critical areas, that is power electronics, EV motors, and the advanced EV batteries. And the advanced EV batteries. So it covers the entire value chain, the R&D, standardization, testing and skills. Okay, so therefore if you see, it will converge with Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat and India's net zero target of 2070. Interestingly, the ministry is Ministry of Heavy Industries. Nodal ministry is Ministry of Heavy Industries, whereas other departments are coordinating. Ministry of Skill Development, right? Department of Science and Technology, Automotive Research Associations, right? And it can work, like I said, with the FAME. FAME stands for Faster Adoption and Manufacturing of Hybrid and Electric Vehicles. Okay? It encourages PPP, right? VGF, Viability Gap Funding route, and is funded by the central government. We are targeting mainly startups and MSMEs, R&D institutions, engineering colleges. Okay? So don't confuse it with FAME or PLI, because we are providing incentives. It is different but complementary to them. Okay? Neither Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is the nodal ministry. Neither we are focusing just on the batteries. See, we are focusing on a lot many other things, power electronics, motors and other things. All right. Next is another very popular scheme, PM Awas or Pradhanmantri Awas Yojna. It has two components, urban and rural, Shahriya and Grameen. Basically to provide pakka housing with basic amenities to all urban and rural poor. Okay. Interestingly, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojna urban got extended up to December 2024. Okay, and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojna rural or Grameen again by 2024. Now, if you look at the critical features of this, it is about in situ development, in situ, on the same site. It has a credit linked subsidy scheme. That means you take a loan and the government will provide subsidy to provide affordable housing. Okay. Now, if you look at the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojna, both the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and Ministry of Rural Development are involved with data coming from socio-economic caste census 2011. Okay, so in that sense it converges with a lot many other schemes, Manrega, Swachh Bharat, Ujjwala, so on and so forth. Okay, the normal sharing arrangement applies, geotagging of houses happens, Okay, geotagging of housing happens. So that is the broad idea. Now next, PM Swanidhi, that is Pradhanmantri, Prime Minister Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi, to provide collateral free capital loans to the street vendors. It was initially started to cushion the effect of COVID-19 and to provide for resumption of their livelihood, and is working under the larger umbrella of the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat. Okay. The ministry is Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So urban street vendors, okay, that are the target group. It is implemented through urban local bodies, scheduled commercial banks, non-banking financial companies, cooperative banks, whereas SIDBI is the implementation partner. It is fully funded by the central government. Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, Mobile Trinity is used to provide the benefits and the loans. If you look at this Swanidhi, it integrates with the Vishwakarma Yojna. Okay, it converges with the Vishwakarma Yojna. Next is the very popular and flagship Jal Jeevan Mission. Nodal ministry, Ministry of Jal Shakti. Har Ghar Jal, or to provide tap connections to every rural household. So it is not for urban, it is for rural. Okay. Promotes water use efficiency as well as community ownership. To provide functional tap connection, community participation is mobilized. Okay. There are village water and sanitation committees that are formed that should have at least 50% participation of the women. Okay. And it converges with Swachh Bharat, MG Narega, etc. Special focus in the SC/ST dominated areas, aspirational districts and the drought prone areas. Now again, funding is interesting, 50-50 and 90-10 for Himalayan and northeastern states. Okay. If you look at a similar component that exists in Amrut 2.0 for the cities, okay. So don't confuse it with Swachh Bharat or Amrut. Neither ministry of, though it's primarily focusing on rural areas, it is not under Ministry of Rural Development or Housing. It has differential funding pattern. Okay. So that's the catch. Next is something that we referred to just now, PM Vishwakarma, Pradhanmantri Vishwakarma Kaushal Samman Yojna. okay, fairly recent 2023-24 budget, right? And the nodal ministry is Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. So, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises to support traditional artisans and craftsmen, to provide them skill training, toolkits, and to empower them digitally, right? Your carpenters, blacksmiths, goldsmiths, cobblers. So in that case, if you will see, backward classes remain and the minority sections will be significantly benefiting from this. Locksmith, toy maker, sculptors, potters, etc. And collateral free loans are provided for enterprise development. Okay. So this is a scheme which gets implemented through a 3-tier mechanism. At a national level, you will have Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. At the state level, you will have state nodal departments, and at a district level, you have a district implementation committee led by the DM or the district collector. And enrollment happens through common service centers. Common service centers, though they are the sort of a party to this, but if you look at the funding part, okay, it is a central sector scheme, and disbursement happens through DBT, that is direct benefits transfers. Okay, it converges with Skill India, Digital India, and lot many other initiatives. Okay. So the criteria is not caste based. Remember, while looking at the social milieu of India, we can say that largely these people will benefit, but the criteria is not caste based. Okay. There is a financial as well as non-financial component, loans, incentives, toolkits, and marketing support is provided. Okay. You see, here I want to flag this thing, that if you look at the previous years, you have had questions from this, micro, medium, small enterprises space. Whether you see question on PM Kusum, Swanidhi, one district, one product, right? So you have this space which is sort of a favorite of UPSC. And this brings me to another very popular scheme, that is PM Kusum, Pradhanmantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Utthan Maha Abhiyan. Again, the word Kisan, and we think that it is Ministry of Ministry of Agriculture. No, it is Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Basically, de-dieselizing Indian agriculture and ensure energy security for farmers, to reduce reliance on diesel and grid by farmers. Okay. So if you see standalone solar power pumps, right, solarization of existing grid connected agricultural pumps, and installation of decentralized ground mounted grid connected renewable power plants. While if you look at the standalone and the solarization part, it is for individual farmers, whereas the setting up of renewable power plants is for cooperatives, panchayats, FPOs. Okay. Understood? So this setting up of plants has no subsidy, but involves a power purchasing agreement. Whereas for the other two, you have the subsidy by both center and the state, as well as bank loans, Okay. So while if you look at Kusum, it is aiming to decentralize the power generation, whereas there are other schemes, Kisan Urja Suraksha for self-reliance, okay, PM Kisan for income support, okay, and there are multiple schemes in the states, in the various states as well. Also there is Pradhanmantri Surya Ghar, which is again rooftop solar power plants at an individual level connected to grids. So let us not confuse these things between them, okay. Next, National Green Hydrogen Mission. Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, right, and within that, if you will see, there are various subcomponents. For example, SITE, that is Strategic Interventions for Green Hydrogen Transition, okay. The idea is to make India a global hub for production, utilization and export of green hydrogen and its related product, okay, and to decarbonize sectors like steel, chemicals and transport, and reduce dependency on fossil fuels, while at the same time creating export opportunities, okay. So by 2030, India is targeting around 5 MMT, that is million metric tons of green hydrogen production per year, okay, per year. Public-private collaboration is encouraged and is a part of achievement of India's net zero by 2070, okay. So again, here the ministry is not Ministry of Environment, Forest or Climate Change or Power Ministry, but it is Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, okay. It is not a blue or grey mission, it is completely for green hydrogen, okay. Understood? It covers both manufacturing and production. We are not looking at household level, rather we are looking at industrial and sector levels like transport, etc. And this brings me to another scheme which is regarding energy, PM Surya Ghar, which I was referring to just a while ago. Fairly recent, Feb 2024, again Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and the idea is solar energy adoption in the residential household through rooftop solar installation. It will bring in both energy self-sufficiency as well as citizens' participation, okay. So we are targeting residential households, not industrial or commercial units. Free units, 300 units per month, right. There are no state specific portals, there is one subsidy portal, that is pmsuryaghar.gov.in, right. Don't confuse it with Ujala scheme, that is different, okay. and don't confuse Ujala with Ujvala, that is different. Okay. Now that brings me to Swamitva, survey of villages, Abadi and mapping with improvised technology in village areas. Here Ministry of Panchayati Raj, okay, to provide a conclusive proof of ownership and record to the households. This will enable the rural folks to use that conclusive proof of property as a collateral and can raise loans. Okay, it will also lead to reduction in disputes, because a majority of the disputes are civil disputes, property disputes, and they can be easily resolved because legal titles, property cards will be given. Now the catch here is that the idea was to cover all the villages in India in a phased manner by 2025. By 2025, okay, and integration with the e-Gram Swaraj portal. E-Gram Swaraj portal. It's a centrally sponsored scheme. It's a centrally sponsored scheme. Okay. So usage of drones, satellites, etc. is made. Okay. So now let me give certain statements and clarify. Does it cover the agricultural land holdings? No. It covers only the residential land. So be very clear. The scheme is a centrally sponsored scheme. Okay. Private drones are not used. Only the authorized drones by the Survey of India are used. Okay. So you have multiple agencies, Survey of India, state authorities, Ministry of Panchayati Raj, and all of them coming together to realize this. Does it provide property cards to landless? No, only the owners of residential land. Okay, so these are the catches of sorts that we have. Next is again very popular, Mission Karam Yogi, or the National Program for Civil Services Capacity Building, okay, to improve and reform the civil service from rules to roles and develop their competencies, better human resource management, enhance their behavioral competencies, not just the technical ones, and to promote continuous learning through a shared learning ecosystem. So you have multiple, institutions and entities built in within it. First is IGOT platform, that is Integrated Government Online Training Platform. It's a digital platform for online training, right, regarding domain, functional skills, behavioral skills, performance monitoring, and things like that. Then you have a capacity building commission to sort of harmonize the capacity building efforts, okay, right, and it is applicable to all the officers, group A, B, C, that covers IAS, IPS, IRS, all services, all new recruits. And the training models happen in both online and in person. There is extensive collaboration between academic institutions, public as well as private. Okay? Understood? To break away the bureaucracy from its generalist model. Next, another very important scheme, Ujjwala, that is Pradhanmantri Ujjwala Yojna. You know, LPG and all that, fairly old scheme, right? Ujjwala 2.0 was launched in 2021. The ministry is not rural development, ministry is Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas to provide clean cooking fuel, that is the LPG, to women below poverty line. Interestingly, the targeted beneficiaries are women, and it is not looking at the family, etc. The women are considered as head of the household and they are provided with subsidies. Okay. The data that they take is socio-economic caste census, and it covers SC, ST, forest dwellers, backward classes, tea garden workers, Antyodaya Anna Yojna families, poor families. Okay, so we are not limited to the socio-economic caste census. Ujjwala 2.0, which came in 2021, added a self-declaration criteria to include, even if you were not included in the socio-economic caste census. Okay, free LPG connection in the name of an adult woman of eligible family is provided. One cylinder, one regulator and one hot plate is provided. The initial refill and stove comes free of cost under Pradhanmantri Ujjwala Yojna 2.0, because this was the complaint, you are providing the connection, but what about the stove? Okay, for stove and refill, payments in installments can be made, and the subsidy is funded by the central government via the direct benefit transfer. It is implemented through OMCs, that is oil marketing companies. Okay, Indian Oil Corporation, Bharat Petroleum, Hindustan Petroleum, so on and so forth. Okay, so BPL status, SECC, other categories. Stove was not always free, like I told you, it is provided under the 2.0, under the 2.0. It also links it with the give it up and the Pahal scheme for LPG subsidy transfer. Next is the Sagarmala to promote port-led development. Recently, Prime Minister inaugurated the Vizag port, right? The ministry is Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, and we are targeting the coastal communities, port dependent industries, investors, exporters and the coastal and inland waterways transport users. So what does it entail? It entails port modernization, connectivity, port-led industrialization and coastal community development. So a company called Sagarmala Development Company Limited was set up under the Companies Act, whereas the implementation happens through multiple ministries, state governments, port authorities, public as well as private sector entities. So PPP comes in there. Okay, there is no uniform funding pattern. VGF and other modes are used. Okay, multiple projects are identified and those projects are funded accordingly. If you look at its convergence, the Pradhanmantri Gati Shakti Master Plan and National Logistics Policy are the converging areas. It is a central sector scheme. It is a central sector scheme. It includes, therefore, inland waterways, rail and road connectivity. Okay. Next scheme is PM Ajay. PM Ajay, Pradhanmantri Anusuchit Jati Abhyudaya Yojna. Okay. Earlier you had schemes like Pradhanmantri Adarsh Gram, Special Central Assistance to Scheduled Caste. They all were subsumed under this. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. Okay, aimed at socio-economic upliftment of scheduled castes. Scheduled castes. Okay, to promote their livelihood, skilling, education, entrepreneurship, etc. Now, if you see the components, like I said, Pradhan Mantri Adarsh Gram Yojna. Okay, development of SC dominated urban local bodies and grants in aid to NGOs and voluntary organization for SC development. So all of them have come together under the PM Ajay. Nodal ministry is Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Okay, understood? A management information system is integrated. Primarily we are looking at scheduled caste across, not just urban or rural, but both. Okay. Next and the last scheme that we are going to discuss in today's session is going to be the Saksham Anganwadi. Saksham Anganwadi. Okay, this is of course linked with PM Poshan. PM Poshan. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. Overall under the vision of the Poshan Abhiyan. Nodal ministry is Ministry of Women and Child Development to strengthen the nutrition and to converge with other programs on nutrition, upgrading of Anganwadi infrastructure and provide early childhood care and education, something which is given in NEP 2020 as well. A great impetus has been given on early childhood care and education, and of course tackle malnutrition. Tackle malnutrition. Okay, so one thing which got very famous was the Poshan tracker. So do have a look, right, at the Poshan tracker. Also the implementing agencies are the Anganwadi centers, which work as the part of the larger ICDS, Integrated Child Development Scheme framework. The funding pattern remains usual, 60-40, 90-10 and 100, right? So a convergence approach is being used with respect to this, with Anemia Mukt Bharat, Janani Suraksha Yojna, Swachh Bharat, School Health Program, and cross-sectoral collaboration with Ministry of Health, Education, Jal Shakti, etc. A real-time monitoring, like I said, happens via PM Poshan tracker. Okay, PM Poshan tracker, right? So with this, I have covered around 28 schemes which are high yielding schemes for the upcoming prelims examination. Like I said, you can comment on this video later if you happen to watch it later, and if you have some doubts, feel free to connect to me, right, and I'll be happy to help. I hope that this trap and action approach would help you further, prepare, especially in the slog weeks before the prelims examination. All the best. Thank you.